Good morning, and thank you for joining NAA's daily micro webinar series. My name is Stephanie Anderson, and I am the Industry Operations Manager here at the National Apartment Association. In an effort to provide our membership with timely operational guidance amid COVID 19, we are producing these daily updates in the form of micro webinars. Each day, we will focus on a different topic relevant to the apartment industry. At this time, I would like to direct your attention to the screen. Please take a moment to review our disclaimer. Today's webinar is sponsored by RentPath. RentPath is known for their best-in-class products and services that help community improve renter satisfaction, reputation, capture more leads, and streamline resident communication. Thank you, RentPath, for being today's sponsor. Today, I am so excited to welcome back Megan Orser, game changer and COO at Smart Apartment Solutions and Smart Moves Management LLC. Did I mention that Megan is also our 2020 winner for Designate of the Year for NALP? So congratulations to Megan. Megan is here
Thank
today to
you.
share her expert guidance on the move-in and move-out process. Megan, welcome and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and thank you to all of our NAA members and guests. I am looking forward to talking with you for a brief, maybe 10-15 minutes about the move-in and move-out process and how it's been affected with the coronavirus. So the topics that we're going to discuss today are you down with PPE? Yeah, you know me. As well as first impressions that we're making online and on our property. We're going to discuss the move-in process and maybe what's changed and some tools to help it make a little bit more easy for you and for your new residents. And we're also going to discuss the move out process and what's changed in that, as well as the turn process. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with communication, and that is the new marketing. Okay, so are you down with PPE? Yeah, you know me. Well, to kind of go on that rhyme, and PPE is just a little bit more than even the items that we use to cover ourselves physically, but it's down to the documentation. So we've heard some best practices of properties that are documenting the PPE that they are wearing, you know, if they're wearing gloves, if they're wearing shoe covers, if they're wearing coveralls. They're documenting when they're sanitizing the apartment or disinfecting it. They're documenting how long they're waiting to go into the apartment, which we'll talk about a little bit later. They're also documenting who went in the apartment and what tools they're using, because that data might become useful to us later on. In some counties, like I have here in Detroit, Michigan, we're actually required to test the temperatures of all of our staff on site. And so that might even be something that you're recording. Now, because we vary from county to county, we just decided to do that across the board, across our portfolio. And that's part of the stuff that we're documenting as well. You do have to remember that fair housing still applies here. So just because we're in a air quote crisis mode, we still have to adhere to our federal and local laws. So make sure if you've got any questions about that, talk to your legal counsel or talk to another coworker that or supervisor that has a better understanding of that. But you have to remember that fair housing still does apply. And we are navigating through some different territories with paying online or no contact. And so we've got to make sure that we're being still flexible for those that maybe, you know, can't pay online or maybe don't have access to internet or technology like the rest of us do. So make sure that you're still adhering to fair housing and you're still not violating any rules or laws or company policies, and we're treating everybody fairly and equitably. All right, so NAA came out with an awesome best practices for PPE or personal protection equipment for the COVID-19 process. So you can check that out. That's on their website. We got that through email. I've got a little image there, but they did recommend that best practices are we're wearing masks when we're on the property, in our turns, interacting with the public if we do, gloves always, as well as shoe covers are recommended, and coveralls if we can obtain them. If this is stuff that you are looking for, we've got a lot of great suppliers out there that do have PPE right now. I talked to my local rep from Sherwin-Williams, and they did verify that they do have the equipment ready to go for you and can deliver it on site if you need it. So we're still going to be practicing social distancing, and that's part of the PPE as well, is keeping that 6 feet apart from each other when at all possible. And even if we can minimize the number of trips that we're going into the unit. So talking to one of my friends, Sweet Spot Technology, they're also members. They have technology for turn processes. They actually do over 50,000 turns across Canada and the United States. And they had some tips that they wanted to share. They said, you really need to minimize your trips in and out. Every time that you go into a residence apartment or a vacant apartment that's, in the process of being turned, you have the potential of either reinfecting the apartment or bringing, if it's infected, outside. So minimize those trips, even if we're doing work orders. So make sure we're taking good notes, where we've got lists of things that need to be done. Sweet Spot actually had technology where you can text a link to your resident. They can actually take pictures or do a video walkthrough. So if you're doing the move out, where you can actually do a diagnostic right there without even having to go into the unit and have an idea of what tools you need to bring with you. So just some technology that is out there available for you to help make this process a little bit easier. And since chemicals are going to be a new topic that we're going to be discussing, you need to make sure that you are still practicing chemical safety. So on this next slide, the EPA actually came out with some guidelines and regulations about what pesticides or disinfectants or sanitation treatments you can do that will actually kill the SARS or the COVID-19 virus. I've got a listing there. You can click on that link. That's a PDF that you can print, maybe put in your SDS or MSD binder. In addition, on the right-hand side of the screen, there is a really cool app out there that's the SDS app or the MSDS online e-binder. This is a really cool app that is something that you can control on a desktop if you're a supervisor, and then your techs can actually have updates to it out in the field. So if they do field any questions, like I've been asked, what do you use to reglaze a bathtub? It's acetone. So what is an acetone? Does it have any correspondence or effects that could affect somebody as far as respiratory or allergens or anything like that? All of that information is in there. You can share that with people that don't even have the app, so it's a great resource. So go check that out and be safe if you're mixing chemicals, please. So your first impressions on the site. So do you have really good signage? Is there good communication for people to know how they can tour your property still virtually? Is there information on how they can pay online or submit a work order and what the steps and tools might be that they're going to need to do that? Do you have good correspondence on your website? We've seen a lot of really good quick pop-ups on websites that just kind of say, hey, we're working on restricted hours, or you can still tour all of our, on available units on this link. Really good correspondence. We've also seen some websites that don't appear like they've been updated since before the new year. They're kind of like business as usual, and we know that business is not as usual. We're doing things a lot different. And so start the communication process early. It tends to cause less frustration to your customers. So do you have good communication on your amenities? Some amenities are starting to open with limited access or restrictions. Do you have good correspondence and rules on how to follow that? If they are closed, do you have adequate signage to let people know that? Unfortunately, we've seen some posts on social media where there is no sign that says that amenities are closed, they're just simply locked. And that's not necessarily sending the right message that we want to relay to our customers. Customer service is still really important, especially since our residents are home more and have the opportunity to reflect on that. So the move-in process, lease signing. Some of us have been using electronic signatures for a while, and some of us, this is a new process for you. So great news is if you're using the NAA Click and Lease, they have this technology available through Adobe, so you can virtually get a signature even from multiple roommates or multiple people in different locations, which is awesome. There is other software out there too, so if you don't have access to that yet, or if you are looking for more of just a signing signature capturing software. Blue Ink is another member, and they do this as well. They actually have the capabilities to do voice over recording to help folks walk through some certain parts. So if you've got trickier areas on your application or lease, there is technology out there available for you, members and our suppliers, that can help you out with that process. For collecting move-in monies as well, if this isn't something that you've been doing on a regular basis, you've been taking more of certified funds and not necessarily online monies, you want to make sure that you're giving adequate time for the funds to clear. So I typically recommend at least 3 to 5 business days to make sure that if it is personal funds or if it's coming from a debit card, that we're able to capture those funds without any issue. Most of our property management software has the capability to accept online, but if you're not there yet, if you're an independent rental owner like me, and new software is something that you're working towards, there is some free capabilities out there. Cozy.com is actually owned by apartments.com, and they are a free property management software that allows you to have the capabilities to do online rental payments, online applications, as well as online work orders. So you can still, run with the big kids, but, on a smaller scale. It's fun. All right, so video apartment walkthroughs are, something that we're getting more used to, and this is a little different than a virtual tour because we've already, captured this piece of traffic and they're moving in. So we want to more demonstrate their apartment and what they're getting. So even more of a documentation if you think about it that way. So there are ways that you can do this either through the Clips app if you want to do a pre-recorded with text over the screen, or some folks are doing this live streaming on Facebook, live streaming on YouTube, or even using video conferencing software like Zoom or GoToMeetings or freeconferencecalling.com, where they're actually having a live virtual interaction and walking through the apartment. What I love about video walkthroughs is it's good documentation. So we know that pictures are great in property management, but the thing that will trump pictures is video. So if we have a video record of a walkthrough of our apartment at move-in and at move-out, it's going to go a lot longer and a lot further for you than just pictures. So kind of keep that in mind. Another great recommendation that came down the pipeline was doing video orientation of your staff. I think this is a win even outside of COVID when we're not staying at home. It's a great way for people to get the faces with the names. So if they're getting correspondence, if they're starting to see these folks on the property doing work, they know who they are. So it's just a good opportunity to kind of introduce your staff. And then I would recommend taking that a little bit further, maybe a small social media campaign where you can also introduce and get to know them a little bit better. Also adding your picture in your email signature block is a great way for people to get face recognition. So when we are able to come out of our hiding, we can actually start interacting with people they know who they've been talking to the last few months. So some move-in solutions for you. I recommend doing an online move-in checklist. We actually created one that's free for you on jotform.com. And so you can use that. You can text that link. You could have people fill it out on their cell phone if they want to, or their iPad or their tablet, whichever. We recommend doing that. That is a contactless way that we can still have those property management processes happen without us having to actually physically be there. So even consider doing some orientations on how-tos, like resetting the garbage disposal, or how do you work your thermostat for your heating and cooling system, because we know those can be some common work orders that we'll have to send maintenance in when it's kind of unnecessary. So maybe utilizing QR codes to help them navigate on a self-guided tour would be my recommendation. Again, I mentioned this in the slide before, but online capabilities for rent or work orders, if your property management software doesn't have that capability or you're not there yet, there are free websites out there, cozy.com is one, where you can still do those functions pretty easily. And then also utilizing lock boxes and smart locks as well. So we use lock boxes for our properties. We'll actually just hang the keys right on the door. We'll text the new resident the code, and then they're able to let themselves in. We collect the lockbox at a later date. If you have the technology and you're able to do smart locks, they're awesome. You can actually have 24-hour, 7 days a week control on who is accessing a common area or an apartment if it's vacant. You can actually just text a code or even have a vendor or a business supplier download the app, and then you can actually control the number of, the time frame they're actually allowed in the apartment. So very cool technology that's available out there. We even heard some of our property management companies that are utilizing their hub lockers from Amazon. So if you already have an Amazon locker, some of the bigger properties that do, they typically have master combinations. And so they're actually able to then put the keys and then the signed move-in paperwork in one of the hub lockers and then text or email the new resident where that information is, and they can collect that 24/7. I thought that was a pretty cool win, so I wanted to share that with you. QRCodemonkey.com is where I generate all of my QR codes. It's free, and you can change the colors. You can add your personal logo and branding to it if you want to. So go check it out and go help it be a useful move-in process. All right, so now we're to the move-out process. So some things that have changed. A lot of us are doing virtual walking tours or walkout inspections or move out inspections, I apologize. But in some areas, in some municipalities, they're still requiring you to do an in-person. So if there is no way around it and you have to do in person, make sure that you are still practicing social distancing. I would recommend gloves. I would recommend a face mask. I would recommend a change of clothes, even if possible, if you have to go in an apartment. You don't know what you're dealing with. Keep 6 feet apart. Make sure to sanitize doorknobs, common areas that you're touching. If you can get out of that and don't have to do an in-person, and virtual works, even a live video, or even waiting the 72 hours, which is recommended. So it is recommended that you wait at least 72 hours before going into a vacant apartment. So once you do collect those move out keys, if you're going to be doing a in-person inspection, we would at least recommend that you're waiting at least the 72 hours before you're going into the unit. 72 hours is the suggested time that allows most viruses to die on the surface. So you have less opportunity of contaminating yourself. So in the turn process, some policies that are coming out, they're waiting 72 hours to do the turn. In addition to that, they're adding a ozone in the unit and then waiting an additional 24 hours. So I don't do math in public, but that is what, four days that we're adding to our turn process. That's something we're going to have to calculate and communicate to our new move-ins, because our process is going to take a little bit longer. We want safety first, so we just have to make sure that we're communicating that to them. Some property management companies have actually put together what they call a home base apartment. So it's a vacant apartment where they're able to store their tools for turns. They're actually able to store their PPE that has typically a washer and dryer in it. They're changing clothes in there. They're laundering anything that can be laundered right there. So it's kind of like their home base, you know, place that they're going. That's where they're storing their tools. That's where they're sanitizing everything so that they can try to minimize contaminating or bringing that back into the office or in their shops, etc. I thought that was a smart tip. And then also limiting the number of people in the apartment at one time. So if you can do just one person in a turn, great. That would be my recommendation. But I understand that we've just taken roughly 4 days from your turn process, so you might have to double up. Just try to keep your distance, make sure you're still wearing your PPE. It's the way to be. Okay, so communication is the new marketing. This is the time to over communicate. I think it's always the time to over communicate, but really right now we should be crystal clear with our expectations. If we're giving directions, make sure they're clear. Make sure you've tested them and these directions actually make sense to people that are not in our industry and not in the everyday workings that we are. And also practice the art of utility, and that's the art of being useful. If you can create a QR code tour or ways to help with, you know, the top 10 most requested maintenance issues like garbage disposal resets, or turning the air conditioner HVAC unit onto auto. Any of those items that you could maybe do that are commonly requested and you can kind of get past those pain points, that would be considered the art of utility. It's being useful and helpful when people are in need. That's the best marketing you'll ever need. So to wrap this up, don't forget to remember PPE is the way to be, and that's even more than just the physical things that we put on our bodies. It's practicing fair housing, it's documenting our interactions in the unit and outside of it, our interactions with residents, when we're sanitizing, all of that stuff. Remember that time is on your side. Waiting that 72 hours and then recommended that additional 24 with an ozone if you've got one. And then using video documentation for the move-in and move-out process will help give you a stronger case if you ever had to go to court, quite frankly, but also that opportunity where you're able to capture a little bit more than a photo can tell you. And then utilize technology when you can. It is available for you. If you've got any questions afterwards, you can reach out with NAA and they can give you resources, as well as myself. I can help you in that direction and find those items. And so with that, thank you so much for participating today. I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Megan, it's been a pleasure having you speak to our membership again today. Your fun and informative webinar is sure to leave our members with lasting information to help their business operations. So thank you again for your time and for sharing your expert guidance with us today.
Thank you.
For more information on this topic and others related to COVID-19, we do invite all of our members to view our coronavirus resources and guidance page, where we're updating new information each and every single day. Thank you again for joining our micro webinar today, and we look forward to having you all back tomorrow for another micro webinar. Thank you and have a great day.